Picture this. You stand at the foot of a sacred mountain, shrouded in mist. As the clouds part, you catch a glimpse of a golden throne perched atop the highest peak. This is Mount Olympus, home to the most powerful beings in existence, the gods of ancient Greece. At the summit, Zeus, the mighty ruler of the skies, holds his thunderbolt, the ultimate symbol of authority. His gaze pierces through the heavens as he watches over the mortal realm. To his side, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, sits silently, her eyes sharp, her mind calculating. The fates of both gods and men rest in her intricate plans. These divine figures, larger than life, were not just characters in stories. They were woven into the very fabric of ancient Greek society, influencing every aspect of life, from the outcome of wars to the harvest of crops. But what are these myths, really? What lies beneath the surface of these tales of gods, heroes, and monsters? The Greeks didn't just see these myths as entertainment. They were windows into the soul of humanity itself. These stories reflected their deepest fears, their greatest hopes, and the eternal struggle between good and evil, chaos and order. Today, we will delve into the rich tapestry of Greek mythology. We will uncover the hidden meanings behind these legendary figures, exploring how they shaped not only the lives of the ancient Greeks but also how their legacy continues to shape our world today. Why do these stories still resonate? Why do they continue to captivate us, centuries later? Our journey begins with the gods of Olympus, but it will take us far beyond the heavens. We will walk the labyrinth with Theseus, stand beside Achilles on the bloody fields of Troy, and face the monstrous Medusa alongside Perseus. As we unravel these tales, we will explore the lessons they hold. Lessons about power, destiny, and the human condition. So, are you ready to embark on this epic journey? A journey that will take us through the peaks of Olympus, the depths of the underworld, and the very core of ancient Greek thought. These myths may be ancient, but their messages are timeless, echoing through history and into our modern lives. Let's unlock the secrets of the gods, heroes, and monsters that have shaped our world, and discover what these stories can teach us about ourselves. The stage is set. The gods are watching. Let's dive into the mythic world of ancient Greece and uncover the truths hidden within the legends. Greek mythology was far more than just a collection of fantastic tales about gods, heroes, and monsters. For the ancient Greeks, these myths were a lens through which they made sense of the world around them, of nature's power, the mysteries of existence, and the complexities of the human condition. In a time before science and philosophy provided structured explanations, myths served as their guide, helping them navigate life's challenges. From the stormy skies commanded by Zeus to the dark and dangerous labyrinth where the Minotaur lurked, every myth held a deeper meaning. They were woven into the very fabric of daily life, shaping the way Greeks interacted with their environment, their society, and their understanding of fate. These myths were not just confined to religious rituals or temple walls. They permeated politics, influenced laws, and inspired the grand artistic achievements of the time. For instance, the tale of Zeus overthrowing his father, Kronos, reflected not just a story of divine rebellion, but a cultural narrative about the struggle for power and generational conflict. An idea that resonated deeply in Greek political life, where city-states constantly vied for dominance. Heroes like Achilles and Odysseus embodied qualities that were idealized by Greek society: bravery, intelligence, and honor, even when tempered by human flaws. Mythology, therefore, was not static. It was alive, evolving with the people who told these stories, influencing their beliefs and values in profound ways. Religion, too, was inseparable from these myths. The gods weren't distant, abstract entities. They were beings who could be appealed to, angered, and, at times, outwitted. Festivals, sacrifices, and oracles were performed in their honor, while stories about their deeds explained the inexplicable. Why thunder roared, why crops failed, or why disease struck. The myth of Demeter and Persephone, for example, wasn't just a story about a mother searching for her daughter. It was the ancient Greeks' explanation for the changing seasons, linking the myth to agricultural cycles and the survival of their communities. Greek mythology also had a profound influence on art and architecture. Temples were built not just as places of worship, but as grand tributes to these myths, with intricate carvings depicting famous tales on their walls. From the Parthenon's depictions of Athena's wisdom and strength to the monumental statues of gods and goddesses that dotted the cities, mythology gave shape and purpose to the greatest artistic achievements of the ancient world. It inspired the tragedies of playwrights like Sophocles and Euripides, who used these timeless stories to explore complex human emotions and societal issues, still relevant to this day. But why do these myths continue to fascinate us, even now? What is it about these stories that transcends time and culture? The truth is, Greek mythology touches on themes that are universal. The struggle for power, the quest for identity, the inevitability of fate, and the tension between human weakness and greatness are conflicts that we all face, regardless of time or place. Greek myths present larger-than-life characters, but they reflect the very real dilemmas of the human experience. They remind us that, despite our advances in knowledge and technology, we still grapple with the same fundamental questions that the Greeks did thousands of years ago. In understanding how the Greeks used mythology as a way to explain and engage with their world, we begin to see that these stories were more than entertainment. They were essential to the Greek worldview. Whether through the tales of gods, like Zeus or Athena, or the adventures of heroes like Hercules and Perseus, mythology provided answers to life's biggest mysteries, while also offering a reflection of the human spirit, in all its triumph and tragedy. Today, these stories continue to captivate millions, not just for their entertainment value, but for the timeless truths they reveal about humanity itself. Picture the towering peak of Mount Olympus, a majestic mountain shrouded in perpetual clouds. Its summit, unreachable by mere mortals, gleams in the golden light of the gods' realm. Here, within palaces of shimmering gold, the Olympians hold their court. Zeus, seated on his colossal throne, commands the skies and watches over the mortal world below. The air is thick with the scent of ambrosia and the sound of immortal laughter, as endless feasts and celebrations take place in this otherworldly paradise. But despite the grandeur and glory, Olympus is also a place of tension and intrigue, where even gods scheme and quarrel. This celestial abode represents not only the divine authority but also the fragile balance of power among the gods themselves. Now, descend into the dark, foreboding underworld ruled by Hades. This is no place of celebration or glory, but a realm of shadows and whispers. The river Styx, black and treacherous, winds its way through this desolate land, where the souls of the dead linger in eternal waiting. Charon, the silent ferryman, guides lost souls across its waters, while Cerberus, the fearsome three-headed dog, stands guard at the gates. The underworld is a place of eerie silence, broken only by the faint cries of the lost. This is where the finality of death weighs heavy, and the mysteries of the afterlife unfold. In Greek mythology, this underworld is not merely a place of punishment, but a complex domain where souls are judged, and some, like the brave Orpheus, attempt daring rescues. Hades' realm embodies the Greek view of mortality, inevitable, inescapable, yet deeply entwined with the living world above. From the underworld, shift your gaze to the vast, tumultuous sea, where Poseidon reigns supreme. The ocean, both a source of life and a destructive force, mirrors Poseidon's volatile temperament. Calm waters can suddenly turn into violent storms, sinking ships and drowning sailors, a reminder of Poseidon's wrath. Imagine standing on the shores of ancient Greece, staring out at the horizon as dark clouds gather, knowing that the sea god's mood will determine your fate. The sea was not only a lifeline for trade and exploration but also a symbol of the unknown, deep, mysterious, and dangerous. In the myths, Poseidon's domain was filled with monstrous creatures, from the great sea serpents to the menacing Scylla and Charybdis, lurking in the depths, ready to strike unsuspecting sailors. The Greek myths were intricately tied to these vivid settings, each reflecting the power and unpredictability of nature. The Greeks saw their gods in the natural world around them, thunderstorms as Zeus' fury, earthquakes as Poseidon's anger, and the cycles of life and death mirrored in Hades' underworld. The supernatural landscapes of Olympus, the underworld, and the sea were not separate from the world the Greeks inhabited but were extensions of it. Mount Olympus may have been inaccessible, but its physical presence on Earth grounded the gods in the real world, making their influence tangible. Similarly, the underworld was as much a part of life as the fertile fields where the Greeks planted their crops, with Persephone's annual descent and return marking the changing seasons. These settings were more than just backdrops for the stories of gods and heroes. They were living, breathing representations of the Greeks' understanding of the universe. The labyrinth where the Minotaur prowled, the fiery forge of Hephaestus beneath a volcanic island, the sacred groves of Artemis where no man dared to hunt, all of these places were imbued with divine power and meaning. Each environment held its own significance, often reflecting the personalities and domains of the gods who ruled over them. The gods of Olympus might have held dominion over the heavens, but their reach extended into every corner of the natural and supernatural worlds. Whether through the raging seas, the dark forests, or the sun-scorched deserts, the myths of ancient Greece were deeply intertwined with the land itself. In telling these stories, the The Greeks were not only exploring the limits of human experience but also engaging with the world around them. They saw the hand of the divine in every mountain, river, and storm. The gods were not distant, abstract figures, but present in the very earth beneath their feet. These settings, with their blend of the familiar and the fantastical, brought the myths to life in a way that resonated deeply with the people of ancient Greece. By visualizing these mythic landscapes, we begin to understand not just the stories themselves, but the worldview of the Greeks, a world where the divine and the mortal were inseparably linked, and every hill, cave, and sea held a story waiting to be told. Greek mythology is populated by gods and heroes, each with traits that reflect both the grandeur and flaws of the human experience. At the top of this divine hierarchy is Zeus, the lord of the skies and ruler of the Olympian gods. Zeus is often depicted as the embodiment of power and authority, wielding his mighty thunderbolt to enforce his will across both the heavens and the earth. But for all his strength, Zeus is also a deeply flawed character. His unpredictable temperament and indulgence in his passions, whether in his frequent affairs or his tendency to act impulsively, make him as fallible as the mortals over whom he rules. These contradictions give Zeus depth, showing that even the mightiest of gods wrestle with their weaknesses, reflecting the ancient Greeks' understanding that power is often accompanied by instability and chaos. Beside Zeus stands his daughter, Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategic warfare. Athena represents a different kind of power, one that is born from intellect, foresight, and rationality. Unlike her father, who rules through brute force, Athena's influence comes from her ability to outthink her adversaries. She is often portrayed as a mediator, a voice of reason in the turbulent world of the gods. Her calm, calculated approach to challenges, whether in battle or diplomacy, made her one of the most respected figures in Greek mythology. But Athena's wisdom is not without its limits. In her rivalry with Poseidon over the patronage of Athens, we see her competitive nature flare, reminding us that even the embodiment of wisdom can be driven by pride. Athena's character teaches us that knowledge and strategy are potent, yet they can also lead to conflict when combined with ego. On the mortal side, there's no figure more iconic than Hercules, the greatest hero of Greek mythology. Hercules is the personification of physical strength, his legendary feats of bravery and endurance a testament to the sheer force of will. However, Hercules' story is not just one of triumph, it is also a tale of suffering and redemption. Hercules is constantly tested, not just by the gods, but by his own inner demons. Cursed by Hera to commit a tragic act of violence against his own family, Hercules spends much of his life atoning for this sin, undergoing 12 impossible labors as penance. This duality, of immense strength paired with deep emotional turmoil, makes Hercules one of the most complex heroes in mythology. His story illustrates the Greek belief in personal responsibility and the idea that redemption is achieved through enduring hardship and accepting the consequences of one's actions. Achilles, another celebrated hero, is perhaps the epitome of the tragic figure in Greek mythology. While his physical prowess on the battlefield is unmatched, it is his hidden vulnerability that ultimately defines him. Achilles' near invincibility, granted by his mother Thetis dipping him in the river Styx, comes with a fatal flaw, his heel. This single weak spot becomes the focus of his legend, symbolizing the idea that no matter how powerful one may seem, there is always an inherent fragility. Achilles' character also grapples with profound emotional conflicts. His anger, pride, and sense of honor drive much of the narrative in the Iliad, particularly in his decision to withdraw from battle after a slight to his ego, and later, his devastating rage following the death of his close companion, Patroclus. Achilles' story is one of both triumph and tragedy, reminding us that even the strongest among us are not immune to the weaknesses that define the human condition. Other key figures like Odysseus and Perseus further enrich this landscape of mythological characters, each bringing their unique qualities and challenges to the narrative. Odysseus, known for his cunning and resourcefulness, is a hero of intellect rather than brute strength. His long journey home in the Odyssey reveals a man who must use his wits to overcome both divine and natural obstacles, navigating a world full of deception, danger, and temptation. Odysseus' ability to adapt and survive in a hostile world highlights the Greek admiration for mental acuity and resilience. Perseus, on the other hand, exemplifies the classic hero's journey. Tasked with slaying the monstrous Medusa, Perseus must confront not only external dangers but also the fear that comes with facing the unknown. His story reflects the hero's archetype, one who must venture into the darkest places, armed with both divine assistance and personal courage, to achieve greatness. These characters, whether gods or mortals, serve as mirrors for the human experience. Their stories are not just about extraordinary feats or supernatural powers, They are reflections of the moral, ethical, and psychological challenges that all people face. Zeus' struggle with his impulses, Athena's balance between wisdom and pride, Hercules' quest for redemption, and Achilles' tragic flaw all illustrate that even in a world populated by divine beings, the central themes are deeply human. These myths resonate because they encapsulate the universal dilemmas of power, honor, vulnerability, and redemption. They remind us that behind every grand act of heroism or divine intervention lies a character wrestling with their internal struggles, much like us. In addition to these iconic figures, the myths often bring lesser-known characters into focus, enriching the narrative with a wide array of motivations and conflicts. Figures like Prometheus, who defied Zeus by bringing fire to humanity, or Icarus, whose ambition led to his downfall, offer cautionary tales about the dangers of overreaching one's limits. These stories add layers to the overarching themes of Greek mythology, showing that even acts of defiance and rebellion against the gods come with their own sets of consequences. Each character, no matter how mighty or insignificant, contributes to the rich tapestry of Greek mythology, revealing the complex interplay between divine will, human agency, and fate. Greek myths, passed down through the centuries, have an enduring legacy that continues to resonate today. These stories, although fantastical in nature, are much more than simple tales of gods, heroes, and monsters. They are deeply rooted in the moral and ethical dilemmas that shaped ancient Greek society and, in turn, human civilization. Over time, these myths evolved, adapting to cultural shifts while preserving their core lessons. The adventures of Odysseus, the tragedy of Oedipus, and the heroics of Hercules remain timeless metaphors for the complexities of human life. When we peel back the layers of adventure and drama, what emerges are stories that explore the very essence of what it means to be human, addressing questions of honor, pride, sacrifice, and the unshakable grip of fate. Take the story of Odysseus, for example. His long and perilous journey home after the Trojan War is more than just an epic tale of survival. The Odyssey presents us with a man who is constantly tested, not just by the physical challenges of monsters like the Cyclops or the temptations of the Sirens, but by his own wits, willpower, and ethical choices. Odysseus is a complex character who embodies the Greek ideal of métis, cleverness and cunning. His resourcefulness saves him time and again, yet his pride and desire for glory often lead him into danger. The story forces the audience to reflect on the fine line between heroism and hubris. Odysseus' journey is symbolic of life's unpredictable challenges and the personal growth that comes from enduring hardship. His story teaches that wisdom, patience, and humility are virtues that help one navigate not just a mythical world, but the trials of everyday life. Similarly, the tragedy of Oedipus is a profound exploration of fate and free will. Oedipus, a king doomed by prophecy to kill his father and marry his mother, struggles against a destiny that has been sealed before his birth. His attempts to avoid this fate only lead him directly into its fulfillment. The myth of Oedipus raises deep philosophical questions that have been debated for millennia. Are we bound by fate, or can we shape our own destiny through our choices? Oedipus' story is also a warning about the dangers of pride. Despite his intelligence and determination, his refusal to heed warnings and his blind confidence in his ability to outwit the gods ultimately lead to his downfall. This tragic hero becomes a symbol of the human condition, where knowledge can both enlighten and destroy, and where self-awareness comes at a painful cost. The myth invites reflection on the limitations of human power and the inescapable nature of destiny. The theme of sacrifice is also a recurring element in Greek mythology, reflecting the importance of duty and the collective good over individual desires. The story of Iphigenia, who was sacrificed by her father Agamemnon to appease the gods and ensure the Greeks' victory in the Trojan War, highlights the harsh moral choices that individuals must sometimes make for the sake of their people or family. While this act seems brutal, it underscores the Greek belief in the necessity of personal sacrifice for the greater good. The tension between individual will and communal duty is a common thread in many myths, challenging both ancient and modern audiences to reflect on their own values and choices. These stories ask the fundamental question: how much is one willing to sacrifice for honor, for family, or for country? At the heart of many Greek myths is the concept of hubris, the dangerous overreach of pride and arrogance. Figures like Icarus, who flew too close to the sun despite his father's warnings, illustrate the tragic consequences of overestimating one's power and defying natural limits. This theme was crucial in Greek culture, where maintaining balance and respecting the gods was seen as essential to avoid chaos. The Greeks viewed hubris as a direct challenge to the cosmic order, often punished by the gods to restore equilibrium. In this sense, these myths served as cautionary tales, reminding individuals to respect their place in the world and avoid the temptation to overstep their boundaries. Destiny is another inescapable force in Greek mythology. The Greeks believed in the Moirai, the fates, three powerful deities who controlled the threads of life. From the moment of birth, one's destiny was woven into the fabric of the universe, and not even the gods could alter it. This belief in the inevitability of fate is a central theme in stories like those of Achilles, whose fate to die young in the Trojan War was known to him from the start. Achilles' choice to embrace his fate rather than avoid it reflects the Greek admiration for Kleos, eternal glory achieved through great deeds, even at the cost of one's life. In this way, Greek myths don't just present fate as a force to be feared, but also as an opportunity for individuals to achieve greatness by accepting their roles in the grand scheme of things. These myths, though ancient, continue to influence modern culture in profound ways. Literature, film, and art still draw heavily on the archetypes and themes established in Greek mythology. From the superhero stories that echo the trials of Hercules to psychological dramas that explore Oedipal conflicts, the relevance of these myths persists. They resonate with us because they deal with universal experiences, struggles for power, identity, and redemption. The moral lessons embedded within these stories, whether about the dangers of pride or the inevitability of fate, are still applicable to modern life. In many ways, these ancient myths form the foundation of Western storytelling, providing timeless insights into the complexities of the human soul. Moreover, the influence of Greek mythology extends beyond the realm of narrative. The ethical and philosophical dilemmas presented in these stories laid the groundwork for Greek philosophy, particularly the works of Plato and Aristotle, who grappled with similar questions about morality, virtue, and the role of destiny. Greek myths are not just stories of the past. They are living legacies that continue to shape the way we think about life, ethics, and the human condition. Greek mythology serves as a mirror reflecting the struggles, triumphs, and flaws of humanity. These stories, filled with gods, monsters, and heroes, are more than just entertainment. They are profound explorations of what it means to live, love, suffer, and die. Through their exploration of honor, pride, sacrifice, and fate, these myths shape the collective psyche of the ancient Greeks and continue to influence our modern worldview. Each story offers a lesson, a reflection, or a warning, reminding us that while the settings and characters may be ancient, the challenges they face are timeless. At the heart of Greek mythology lies a constant state of conflict and tension, both external and internal. These stories, more than just grand tales of gods and monsters, are profound reflections of the struggles that define human existence. From cosmic battles between gods to the inner turmoil of heroes, Greek myths explore a vast range of conflicts that captivate audiences with their timeless resonance. Zeus' monumental struggle against the Titans for control of the universe is one such grand conflict. This battle for supremacy, known as the Titanomachy, was more than just a war of brute force. It symbolized the triumph of order over chaos, a theme that ripples through Greek mythology. Zeus' victory established a new era of divine rule, but it also came at the cost of immense destruction and suffering, setting the tone for the cyclical nature of power and the inherent tension between those who rule and those who resist. Yet, not all conflicts in Greek myths are on such a colossal scale. Some of the most compelling struggles are deeply personal, revealing the vulnerabilities of even the mightiest heroes. Achilles, perhaps the most iconic figure from Greek mythology, embodies this duality of conflict. His prowess on the battlefield is unmatched, but his greatest battles are fought within. Achilles faces a profound inner conflict. His desire for eternal glory is tempered by the knowledge that achieving it will cost him his life. This tension between his personal ambitions and his mortality defines his story in the Iliad. Achilles is torn between fighting for honor and the inevitable consequences of his choices. His withdrawal from battle after feeling slighted by Agamemnon is not just an act of defiance. It is a moment of deep introspection where Achilles grapples with the fragility of life and the meaning of his own existence. This inner struggle makes Achilles one of the most relatable figures in mythology, as his conflict mirrors the universal human dilemma of balancing personal desires with the cost they may entail. Greek myths also delve into the complexities of fate and free will, where characters often find themselves trapped by prophecies they cannot escape. The story of Oedipus is perhaps the quintessential example of this. Oedipus, despite his best efforts to avoid his foretold destiny, ultimately fulfills the prophecy that he would kill his father and marry his mother. His life is a tragic testament to the inescapability of fate, and the tension between human agency and the power of destiny is a recurring theme throughout Greek mythology. This conflict is not just about external forces controlling a character's life, but about the psychological weight of knowing one's future and being unable to change it. Oedipus' realization of his fate is a moment of profound horror, not just for him but for the audience, as it forces the question: how much control do we truly have over our own lives? The theme of internal conflict is also central to the story of Hercules. Known for his superhuman strength, Hercules' greatest battles are not with the mythical creatures he slays, but with his own guilt and remorse. After being driven mad by the goddess Hera, Hercules kills his own family, and this act haunts him throughout his life. His famous 12 labors are not just feats of physical endurance. They are acts of penance, a way for Hercules to seek redemption for his unforgivable crime. The tension in his story comes from the fact that no matter how many monsters he defeats or how many impossible tasks he completes, he can never fully escape the burden of his past. Hercules' internal struggle between his role as a hero and his identity as a man who committed a great sin makes him a deeply tragic figure. His story shows that even those who seem invincible can be brought low by the weight of their own actions. Many Greek myths also explore the tension between mortal desires and divine will. The gods of Olympus, while powerful, are often depicted as capricious beings who interfere in the lives of mortals, sometimes out of justice, but often out of petty jealousy or spite. This creates a constant state of tension between humans and the gods, where mortal characters are caught in the crossfire of divine feuds. The story of Prometheus is a clear example of this. Prometheus defies Zeus by giving fire to humanity, an act of rebellion that empowers humans but incurs the wrath of the king of the gods. For his defiance, Prometheus is punished with eternal torment, chained to a rock where an eagle eats his liver every day. This conflict between the will of the gods and the desires of mortals highlights a fundamental tension in Greek mythology: the struggle for autonomy in a world where the gods hold ultimate power. Prometheus' story reflects humanity's desire to push boundaries and defy limitations, even when faced with dire consequences. Greek myths also often portray the tension between love and duty. The story of Paris and Helen, which sparked the Trojan War, is a classic example of this. Paris, the prince of Troy, chooses to follow his love for Helen, despite the fact that she is already married, leading to one of the greatest conflicts in mythological history. His personal desire for Helen sets in motion a chain of events that results in the fall of Troy. The tension here is not just between rival armies, but between personal passion and the devastating consequences it can have on a broader scale. Similarly, the love story of Orpheus and Eurydice shows the tragic consequences of failing to balance love with patience and trust. Orpheus' inability to resist looking back at his wife as they leave the underworld dooms them both, reflecting the delicate balance between desire and restraint. Ultimately, the conflicts in Greek mythology are as varied as they are universal. Whether it's a battle for cosmic supremacy, an internal struggle with guilt or pride, or the tension between human desires and divine commands, these stories reflect the complexities of the human experience. What makes these myths so enduring is their ability to capture the full spectrum of conflict, both grand and intimate, and the way they reveal the inescapable interplay between success and failure, triumph and tragedy. Greek mythology teaches us that conflict is an inherent part of life, and that the resolution of these conflicts, whether victorious or tragic, is what defines the characters, just as it defines us. The influence of Greek mythology on Western culture is profound and far-reaching, extending far beyond the ancient world into our modern lives. Since the Renaissance, when European scholars and artists rediscovered the myths of Greece, these stories have continually shaped literature, art, philosophy, and even science. The gods, heroes, and monsters of Greek myth remain some of the most iconic figures in human storytelling, their legacies transcending time and geography. From classical paintings and sculptures that depict Zeus, Athena, and Hercules, to modern cinematic universes where heroes wield powers reminiscent of ancient gods, the mythology of Greece is woven into the fabric of our culture. Its impact is not confined to art and literature. The very language we use is filled with references to these ancient tales. Terms like Achilles' heel or Pandora's box are common phrases, instantly understood, but rooted in mythology. These stories are not relics of the past. They are living, evolving components of how we view the world. During the Renaissance, the revival of interest in classical antiquity sparked a renewed engagement with Greek mythology. Artists like Michelangelo and Botticelli were inspired by the myths of ancient Greece, using the figures of gods and heroes as allegories for human emotions and philosophical ideas. The Renaissance humanists saw these myths as more than mere stories. They were viewed as vehicles for expressing universal truths about the human condition. Through their art and literature, these creators reintroduced Greek mythology to a broader audience, establishing a foundation that still informs Western thought and creativity today. The epics of Homer, the Iliad and the Odyssey, became essential texts, influencing storytelling techniques that continue to shape modern narratives of adventure, heroism, and tragedy. Homer's epics provided a blueprint for the structure of epic storytelling. The journey, the trials, the hero's internal and external conflicts, and the inevitable confrontation with fate. Fast forward to the 20th and 21st centuries, and Greek mythology is more alive than ever in popular culture. Modern adaptations of these myths have found new life in books, films, television, and video games. For instance, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has drawn heavily on Greek mythological archetypes. Characters like Thor, though rooted in Norse mythology, embody many of the traits of Greek gods: divine power, internal conflict, and a complex relationship with humanity. Meanwhile, heroes like Wonder Woman trace their origins directly to Greek myth, with Diana herself being the daughter of Zeus. These adaptations reimagine ancient stories for new audiences, blending myth with modern values, yet the core themes, power, morality, sacrifice, remain deeply connected to their mythological roots. Moreover, Greek mythology has shaped not only how we tell stories but also how we understand ourselves. The psychological insights embedded in these myths have been examined through the lens of modern psychoanalysis. Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud, two of the most influential figures in psychology, frequently referenced Greek myths in their theories. Freud's concept of the Oedipus complex, for instance, draws directly from the tragic story of Oedipus, whose life is defined by his unwitting fulfillment of a prophecy that leads him to kill his father and marry his mother. Jung's archetypal theory, which suggests that certain universal characters and motifs are embedded in human psyche, is heavily informed by the recurring figures in Greek myths: heroes, gods, monsters, and tricksters. These myths serve as a bridge between ancient and modern understandings of the human mind, illustrating how deeply intertwined these stories are with our inner lives. The influence of Greek mythology also extends to language and idiomatic expressions. The phrase Achilles' heel refers to a singular, often hidden vulnerability in an otherwise strong individual or system, a reference to the myth of Achilles, whose invulnerability was compromised by his one weak spot, his heel. Pandora's box, a term for an action or decision that unleashes unforeseen and uncontrollable consequences, comes from the myth of Pandora, whose curiosity led her to open a jar that released all the evils of the world. These expressions have become so ingrained in our lexicon that we often use them without even considering their mythological origins. They serve as subtle reminders of how Greek mythology continues to permeate everyday life, shaping the way we describe and understand complex situations. The themes of Greek mythology, fate, free will, the consequences of hubris, the tension between mortal desires and divine will, are universal and timeless. These stories address the big questions that have always preoccupied humanity. What is the nature of power? How should we live our lives in the face of inevitable death? How do we reconcile our desires with our responsibilities? These are questions that have not only shaped the ancient Greek worldview but have continued to resonate through centuries of philosophical and ethical inquiry. Greek myths, through their characters and conflicts, provide a framework for exploring these questions. And as such, they remain relevant even in today's highly modernized world. Additionally, Greek mythology's influence can be seen in the structure of Western education. From early childhood, many students are introduced to Greek myths as part of their literature and history studies. These stories offer more than just entertainment. They are used as tools for teaching moral lessons and exploring ethical dilemmas. The character flaws of figures like Narcissus, whose self-obsession leads to his demise, serve as cautionary tales that continue to be relevant in discussions about ego and self-importance. The endurance of these myths in educational curricula around the world attests to their lasting value as teaching tools and their capacity to illuminate complex human behavior. In the field of art, Greek mythology has inspired countless masterpieces. The Renaissance was just the beginning. Even in contemporary art, filmmakers like Ridley Scott, Gladiator, Prometheus, and artists like Jeff Koons have drawn upon these myths to explore themes of human struggle, triumph, and downfall. Video games like God of War and Assassin's Creed Odyssey immerse players in worlds where they interact with gods and mythological figures, allowing a modern audience to engage directly with these ancient narratives. These media take the timeless essence of Greek mythology and adapt it for new formats, ensuring that these stories continue to captivate and inspire. The impact and legacy of Greek mythology are undeniable and far-reaching. From the Renaissance to modern pop culture, these ancient stories have continuously shaped the way we understand art, literature, psychology, and philosophy. They provide us with a rich tapestry of symbols, characters, and themes that resonate with the core of human experience. Greek mythology, with its tales of gods, heroes, monsters, and mortals, offers timeless lessons that continue to inspire and inform, proving that these stories are not relics of the past but vital components of our cultural identity. Whether through a phrase we use, a movie we watch, or a philosophical idea we explore, Greek mythology remains a foundational pillar of Western thought and creativity, ever relevant in our understanding of the world and ourselves. Greek mythology is not a monolithic narrative, but a complex tapestry woven from various threads of human experience. The myths were not interpreted in the same way by everyone in ancient Greece. They meant different things depending on one's social class, gender, and role within society. While the elite celebrated the exploits of gods and heroes in grand festivals, the common people may have found deeper resonance in the more human aspects of these myths. The trials of heroes like Hercules, whose physical labor reflected the toil of everyday life, or the cunning of Odysseus, who relied on intellect over brute force, offered a point of connection for the average Greek, who faced daily struggles that, while not as grand as those of the heroes, felt just as demanding. This multi-layered interpretation of myths allowed them to be more than just stories of divine power and glory. They became mirrors of human experience. For the elite, the grand festivals like the Panathenaic Games or the Eleusinian Mysteries served not only as celebrations of the gods but also as reaffirmations of social order and political power. The stories of gods, such as Zeus reigning supreme on Mount Olympus or Apollo symbolizing balance and harmony, reflected the ideals of leadership, wisdom, and control that the aristocracy sought to embody. The elite's interpretation of mythology often focused on the divine right of kings, the importance of maintaining order, and the rewards of living a life of virtue and honor. For them, the myths validated the social hierarchy, reinforcing their roles as the chosen stewards of the gods' will. Heroes like Achilles, with his pursuit of glory and Cleo's immortal fame, mirrored the aspirations of the upper class, who sought to achieve lasting renown through acts of bravery and excellence. In contrast, the common people might have viewed these same myths through a more practical lens. To them, the labors of Hercules, slaying the Nemean lion, capturing the Erymanthian boar, or cleaning the Augean stables, weren't just extraordinary feats of heroism, but metaphors for the backbreaking work of daily life. The idea that even a demigod like Hercules had to endure hardship, often through sheer effort, made these stories relatable. Odysseus, too, with his cleverness and resilience in the face of overwhelming odds, represented the power of human resourcefulness. His long journey home in the Odyssey wasn't just a tale of adventure but a reflection of the trials and tribulations that every person faced in navigating the uncertainties of life. The way these characters struggled and overcame their challenges offered hope and inspiration to those who saw themselves not in the palaces of kings but in the simplicity of labor and survival. Gender also played a significant role in how myths were interpreted. For women, mythology presented a complex mixture of empowerment and restriction. Goddesses like Athena and Hera embodied powerful roles within the pantheon, but also reflected the gender norms and limitations of the time. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and war, was celebrated for her intelligence and strategic thinking, but she was also a virgin goddess, often depicted as distancing herself from traditional feminine roles such as marriage and motherhood. This dichotomy mirrored the societal expectations of women in ancient Greece, where they were often confined to the domestic sphere but could wield influence through cunning, wisdom, or spiritual devotion. Women may have found solace or inspiration in figures like Penelope, the loyal and clever wife of Odysseus, who skillfully delayed her suitors while awaiting her husband's return. Penelope's resourcefulness and patience made her a symbol of quiet power, representing the subtle ways in which women could exercise agency within the constraints of a patriarchal society. On the other hand, characters like Medea or Clytemnestra challenged traditional gender roles in more radical ways, embodying both the dangers and the potential of female power. Medea, a sorceress who takes vengeance on her unfaithful husband by killing their children, represents the destructive force of unchecked female rage, a theme that resonated with the societal fear of women who stepped outside their prescribed roles. Clytemnestra, who murders her husband Agamemnon in revenge for sacrificing their daughter Iphigenia, also defied the expectations of women in ancient Greek society. While these figures were often vilified in the myths, their stories offered a subversive perspective on the consequences of patriarchal oppression, highlighting the tension between traditional values and the potential for female resistance. Beyond social class and gender, geography and local customs also influenced the interpretation of myths. Different city-states in Greece often had unique relationships with specific gods and heroes. Athens, for example, celebrated Athena as its patron deity, emphasizing wisdom, justice, and civic responsibility. Spartan society, on the other hand, focused on martial prowess, and its people may have resonated more with the warlike aspects of mythology, such as the heroism of Achilles or the strength of Hercules. These regional differences meant that the same myths could carry different meanings depending on where and how they were told. What might be a tale of intellectual triumph in Athens could be a story of physical endurance in Sparta, illustrating how the flexibility of these myths allowed them to be molded to fit the values and priorities of each city-state. Class distinctions also played a role in the interpretation of myths regarding the gods' relationships with mortals. The aristocracy might have seen their proximity to the gods as a reflection of their higher status, believing that they were favored by divine powers, as suggested in myths where kings were often directly descended from gods or had special relationships with them. For the lower classes, however, the capriciousness of the gods could be a reminder of the unpredictability of life. Myths like that of Prometheus, who defied Zeus to give fire to humanity, might have been seen as a symbol of human resilience against divine tyranny. Prometheus' suffering could resonate with those who felt the burden of their own struggles, offering a reflection of the human condition as one of endurance in the face of arbitrary forces. In this way, exploring multiple perspectives within Greek mythology reveals the depth and complexity of these ancient stories. They were not static but fluid narratives that could be shaped by individual experience, societal role, and regional culture. For every glorious victory celebrated by the elite, there was a corresponding narrative of struggle, survival, and quiet resilience that spoke to the lives of ordinary people. The gods and heroes of Greek mythology weren't just distant, untouchable figures. They were mirrors of the human soul, reflecting both the aspirations and the struggles of those who told and retold their stories. By examining these myths through different lenses, we uncover a richer, more nuanced understanding of their significance, both in ancient Greece and in the modern world. Greek myths are far more than just stories of gods, heroes, and monsters. They are timeless lessons that explore the depths of power, tragedy, love, and loss. Universal themes that continue to resonate across cultures and generations. Each figure in these myths, whether it's Zeus ruling from the heights of Mount Olympus, Achilles battling his fate on the fields of Troy, or the Minotaur lurking in the shadows of the labyrinth, offers a glimpse into the complexities of life and the struggles that define human existence. These myths encapsulate the eternal conflict between good and evil, between desire and duty, and between individual will and the inexorable forces of fate. They capture the beauty and brutality of life, where even gods are not immune to their flaws, and where mortals strive for greatness, often at the cost of their own downfall. When we delve into these stories, we find that they are not merely ancient tales of supernatural beings, they are reflections of ourselves. The themes they explore, ambition, love, betrayal, sacrifice, are the same challenges we face in our lives today. Greek mythology speaks to the human condition in a way that transcends time, revealing truths about the human spirit and the nature of existence. Zeus' struggle to maintain control, Achilles' pursuit of glory, and Orpheus' tragic love for Eurydice mirror our own battles with authority, desire, and loss. The gods and heroes are larger-than-life representations of our hopes, fears, and vulnerabilities, making these myths as relevant today as they were in the ancient world. What makes these stories endure is their ability to adapt and reflect the values of the cultures that retell them. From the Renaissance to modern-day cinema, Greek mythology has been reinterpreted to suit the times. Yet the core lessons remain unchanged. The tragedies of Oedipus and Icarus, the courage of Perseus and Hercules, and the wisdom of Athena continue to inspire not just in art and literature but in everyday life. These myths offer more than just entertainment. They offer wisdom, warning, and, most importantly, a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world we inhabit. At their core, Greek myths ask profound questions about life's meaning and purpose. Why are we here? How do we navigate the balance between our desires and our responsibilities? What role does fate play in our lives? And can we truly shape our destinies? These are questions that have preoccupied humans for millennia, and Greek mythology provides a rich, symbolic framework through which to explore them. In the stories of Greek mythology, we find metaphors for the trials of human life and insights into the choices we must make. They remind us that power is fleeting, love is fragile, and wisdom often comes at a great cost. The enduring appeal of these stories lies in their ability to speak to our shared experiences, encouraging us to reflect on the choices we make and the values we hold dear. As we look at these myths today, we must ask ourselves, what do they mean to us now? In a world that has advanced so much since the days of ancient Greece, why do these stories still hold power over our imaginations? Perhaps it's because they offer something that transcends the ordinary, a connection to the archetypes and symbols that define human nature. In a time when technology shapes so much of our lives, these ancient stories provide a reminder of our humanity, of the enduring struggles and triumphs that connect us to our ancestors. So, what is your interpretation of these myths? How do the struggles of Hercules, the wisdom of Athena, or the tragedy of Oedipus resonate with you? Do you see reflections of your own life in these ancient tales, Or do they inspire you to think about the world in a new way? The beauty of Greek mythology is that it invites each of us to interpret these stories through our own experiences. We all bring something different to the table, shaped by our unique perspectives and challenges. Leave your thoughts in the comments and let's explore together how these ancient myths continue to resonate with modern life, reminding us that, though centuries have passed, the quest for meaning, understanding, and connection remains eternal.